Martio here. Welcome. Well, it's not the start of a week for me, it's just a continuing. Very busy week last week, and it's sort of come into this week. But we're going to start off on this Monday with more of the John Mitchell story. Now, the band we're going to look at today is a band that he only made one album with, but when you listen to the rest of the catalogue, it's pretty good. And that band is called Blind Ego. Now, Blind Ego is like the solo side project of German guitarist Karl-Heinz Wallner. Now, he's in a band called RPWL, which is made up of initials of the musicians in the first lineup of the band, which was Paul Rossetto, Chris Posty, Callie Wandler and Yogi Lan. So that's the band is in, and they're still going, and they've made some really good albums, and yes, we will look at them at some stage. But Blind Ego is sort of Warner's sort of side project, and this is what he says how he got the name. He says that the ego part of the name is derived from the desire to make music from a very personal space. He says that the blind comes from his total commitment to his solo work. So the band got together, and he took over bandmate from RPWL, Yogi Lan, and he had people like Tommy Egbert from Legacy and Beat Freaks, John Jowlett from IQ and Arena, of course. John Mitchell's has obviously played on this. Paul Reichson from Arena again. So they've sort of come in. Clive Nolan's been involved as well. So there have been a few lineups, but all them music is pretty good. And they've made 4 albums under the title of Blind Ego. There is another album that came out called Voices, which I think is sort of half of Blind Ego and half of this, but it doesn't go under the Blind Ego name as such. So we'll have a look at these 4 albums. So coming in at number 4, we have the most current one from 2020, and it's called Preaching to the Choir. Now on here there's Karl Wallner on the guitars and backing vocals, Sebastian Hananak on bass, Scott Barbelden on vocals, Julian Keller on guitars and Michael Christoph on the drums. First track on this one is called Massive. Now this is a good progressive rock track, metal track. It's got some great riffs in this. The vocalist on here, Scott Balaban, great voice. Solid track, I do like that. It's really meaty. The guitar work from Callie, whatever he wants to be called, is really good. Then we get Preaching to the Choir title track. It's not too bad, got some enough driving riffs in it. Solid enough track. Burning Alive. It's okay. It's a mixture of pop rock sort of thing. It's okay. I don't mind that one at all. Then we get Line in the Sand. I love the bass line in this from Sebastian Hananak. Just seems to really drive the song along. It's got some really nice guitar touches. It's probably the best song on the album. Then we get Dark Paradise. Again, there's some lovely textures on here. Solid track. It's got some really nice drumming on it. It's just really good progressive metal rock. Excellent track. In Exile, one of the weaker tracks on here. It just seems to just go around in circles a little bit. It's got some good little bits on it, but it doesn't seem to go as a nice flow. Heading for the Stars. We've got some extra electronic bass on here. really distracts you from the actual song. Broken Land, good track, solid, great riffs again, like that one a lot. Then the last track is called The Pulse. It's very melodic, got that sort of junka sort of sound to it. Really good track. This album is really good. I enjoy this. I only discovered this band purely because John Mitchell's on it when I put this together, and I've now sort of got all the albums downloaded. I like this. It's very good. I listen to it quite a lot. It's got a little bit of different sort of textures on it. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 3, we go to 2016 now, and the third album, Liquid. Now this is just Karl-Heinz Walner with lots of session guys. Sebastian Harnack's back though, Yogi Lang's on the keyboards. We've got Carmen Walnuts, it was, I don't know if it's his daughter, his sister, his mother, I don't know. Arno Menzies does vocals on here, a guy called Eric Bloomsvist does vocals, Aaron Brooks does vocals, Ralph Schwager on bass, Michael Schwager on drums, and Hickleo Young on bass. So right mixture here, so it's only, they're just with, so it's Carl with. First track is called A Place in the Sun. Good track again, it's got some great riffs. This Karl-Heinz Walner is a very good guitar player. It's very classical orientated. He was sort of classically trained musician, so the way he plays on guitars is fantastic. It's a great track. Blackened, again, it's just very intricate guitar work. Really enjoy listening to that one, and the drumming on this is great. Just thinking who plays the drums on this one. It's Michael Schwager. Really solid drum beat. What If, not very memorable for me. It's probably the weaker track on the album. Then we got Not Going Away, great track. Love the melodic riffs on here. Very, I'm just trying to think of a word to describe his guitar playing. I think there's one way. It's like listening to a classical violinist, but it's done on a guitar. It's wonderful to listen to. The drumming on that is brilliant. Never Escape. This, it's one of these sort of progressive rock tracks that starts very gentle, again builds up. The first bit though is quite repetitive and dull, but once it gets going, it's absolutely brilliant track. But on the whole, the track is really, really good. If you like your progressive metal, you're gonna like that one. Tears and Laughter, great track on there. The guitar work is such brilliance. I can listen to this guy all day. He's a really good guitar player, and I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Then we get my favourite track on here called Quiet Anger. Great heavy metal with a great bass line. It's got a bit of a funky sound to it that shouldn't really fit on this track, but boy does it, and it really gives to this track. Speak the Truth, it's a good track, but it went on a little bit long. I think it should have been curtailed by about 2 minutes, but it's not a bad track. I'm not saying it's bad because it's longer. I think it would have been a better track with 2 minutes less on it. Good track to end the album though. So, a good album, most enjoyable album. Some great guitar work on this, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 6.4. Okay then, coming in at number 2, we have the second album from 2009. And this one is called Numb. On here we've got Karl-Heinz Walner on guitar and keyboards, Paul Wrightson on vocals from Arena, of course. Yogi Land's on here, of course. He's just doing backing vocals and production on this. John Jowett, bass player from IQ and Arena. Sebastian Hartnack does some bass as well, not quite sure which tracks. Michael Svager on drums, and Igor Calver plays drums on one track. First track on this one is called Lost. I love this track, it's so Arena. When you've got Paul Wrightson on the vocals, it is going to sound it. Not sure who does the bass on it, but it's great. I mean, Michael and John are great bass players on these albums, so I don't know who's doing the bass, but it's really good. Guilt, the riffs on this from Carl are brilliant. Great drumming here. Solid track. Then we get Numb, the title track. Paul's vocals are just amazing on this. It's got one of the best guitar solos from Karl-Heinz. Absolutely brilliant. Then we get Leave, not my favourite track on the album. Oh dear, got a frog in my throat today. It's okay, just plods along. Then we get my favourite track on here, and it's just called Death. But it's got a nice melodic melody to it, and a great bass line. And also you've got this great vocal from Paul again, absolutely brilliant. Then we get Change, great bass line. Not sure who's the bass player on it, I don't know if it's John or Michael, but it's so eerie. And then you got Cole's guitar on top of it, absolutely brilliant track. Seek, sounds like a Arena track, but I don't mind that because I love Arena. The great vocal from Paul, some great guitar work again from Karl-Heinz, absolutely brilliant. Risk, again, this is a little bit dull. It's got a bit of acoustic guitar in it, but the vocal's good. But the music, it needed a little bit more extra somewhere. Then we get Turn, a great track. Oh, some great guitar work here from Karl-Heinz. Just love them riffs and them little licks he does. Brilliant. Vow, lots of atmosphere on this one. Some great guitar work. The vocals from Paul is brilliant. Then we get a reprise of Change. Now, I don't know why they split it up. Why don't they just put it all together and do it as one track? It's good. It's as good as the first bit, but why do they have to reprise it? I don't know. Something Else, great track. This is Paul's best vocal on this album. Absolutely dynamite. Yeah, I love this album. It's got 2 members of Arena on it, so it's going to be good. And you got Paul doing the singing. I love this album again. It's absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. So coming in at number 1, we have the debut album from 2007 called Mirror. And on here it features Karl-Heinz Walner, of course. Now John Mitchell doesn't play, he sings on this album, so this is the only contribution he does. He sings on 3 songs. You've got Paul Wrightson doing vocals as well. So John and Paul sort of split the vocals. Misha Selfin does one set of vocals. Clive Nolan does some backing vocals. Yogi Lang, John Jowett's on here, and Tommy Edbert and drums. You got near enough, apart from not having Mick Pointer on here, you've got a version of Arena. So the first track on here is called Obsession. This is my favourite track by the band Blind Ego. It's brilliant. You got John Mitchell singing on it, and I love John Mitchell's vocals there. They can be aggressive and gentle at the same time. Great performance from John on the vocals there. Brilliant track. Moon and Sun, great track. You've got you know that I do know that on this one it is John Jowett doing the bass. You've got these lovely backing vocals from Clive Nolan, Paul as well. It sounds so Arena, it's unbelievable. Great track. Break You. This is John singing again. Great track. Some great guitar work. The drums on here are brilliant from this guy called Tommy Eberhardt. Really, really good track. Then we get Black Despair. Karl Heinz's guitar playing on here is brilliant. Such a good guitar player, as I've said. Great riffs. Great vocal here from Paul Wrightson. Then we get Open Score. More great guitar work here from Karl Heinz. Great bass line from John. Solid track. Hollowed. Atmospheric rock music. Oh, absolutely brilliant. It's a very short thing, but it's just brilliant. Then we get the title track called Mirror. It's got them driving riffs from Karl Heinz. Great vocal from Paul. Really atmospheric. Great bass line. It's a terrific track. Don't Ask Me Why. Another brilliant track. This is the best vocal from John Mitchell. Got some lovely gentle guitar on it, and John's voice is such an atmospheric voice. You find that when we do his when we talk about It's Bites next week. He gives such a performance on his vocals on this one. Then we get Moorland. John's bass line, typical what he does with Arena now. Great guitar work from Heinz. Then we get Forbidden to Remain. Brilliant. This is the best vocal that Paul did with Blind Ego. It's up there with some of his great songs that he did with Arena. Absolutely brilliant. The guitar work from Karl is absolutely brilliant. Then the last track is called Artist Mank. This is a track by Violet Districts, probably the weakest on the album. Never heard of the singer, but just really whines a little bit. Okay, this is my favourite album, not because purely it's got John Mitchell on it. I think it's just the best album Blind Ego I've done. It helps when you have got members of Arena chipping in, I suppose. I just love this album. It's brilliant. There's only one word to describe it. It's got some great guitar playing on it. The whole production on these albums is superb. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, this is definitely one of them obscure bands, but go and check them out. If you like progressive metal, what I wouldn't say it's more of, I'd call this is a heavy rock with progressive overtones. Yeah, fantastic. Karl Heinz is a great guitar player. Oh, that is a little gem of a thing, and I'm glad I've discovered this band because I pretty think they are good. Okay, that's all for this part. Next week it's part 6, and we move on to a band called It's Bites, which John is now sort of heavily involved with. Turn their fortunes round, I think. I've actually seen them as well, not with John Mitchell, but I have actually seen them. So that's next week. Still got today, we have got classic album review, and this week we're going to look at a band that's got two people that sort of legends in their own lunchtime. That's Neil Young and Stephen Stills, and their band that they was in called Buffalo Springfield, and we're going to look at that debut album. So join me for that later. Bye for now.